Hi everybody, this is Galen, and today I'm going to show you a little bit more detail in watercolor. I have Sakura koi watercolors along with gold embossing detail, and I'm using Unity Stamp Company's My Dear Friend. It's a uniquely Unity line, and it's just wonderful. I love it. I have Versamark ink. I have an EK Success powder tool to add powder before the heat embossing. I also use Ranger gold embossing powder in fine detail. I like dies by My Creative Time. For those I used stitched edges and also used more stitched rectangular dies. I also used some watercolor brushes, an original Misty, Ranger watercolor paper, multi-medium matte, glue, and I used a sand eraser, a mono sand eraser, and I used adhesive buttons, but I took the adhesive off and used my own adhesive. So for this, I stamped in Versamark, and now I'm adding some gold embossing powder. I just take off any excess with either a brush or my fingers, and then I heat emboss it with a heat tool. I die cut first with a rectangle for the background panel, and then I die cut a second time with sort of a oval shape, and not an oval shape, just more of a line, a curved line. You can also trace and cut with your own scissors to get that same detail. I mixed watercolors by Sakura koi. I mixed a sort of a red and a peach, and I wanted to get a coral color. I like how it turned out. I like the coral with the gold. And sometimes I'll just use the coral, sometimes I'll just use the red. I come in with a dark concentrated red color in the center, and I use a wet brush gently blending out some of that color. I do that for each petal. And I don't add a lot of water for that. Sometimes I blot a little bit of water off onto the paper towel. I just go back in and pull a little bit more color out of that center darker area, and it pulls out nicely. And sometimes I'll go in and add a little bit more of the coral, and then maybe again a little more darker detail. Sometimes I'll use the palette color directly, and then I'll come back with more of a wetter area of the palette to blend it out. And I do this for each petal. I allow some of the areas to be darker and some lighter. I like the way that it gives a little depth to the flower. The look of texture without a lot of texture. Now I'm coming in with a darker green shade only in just small areas. And I'm going to come in and use a lighter green on the outer areas. And then later I will just lightly blend the lighter area into the darker just a little bit, just to erase that harsh line of green. And then I heat set with a heat tool again, lightly. Sometimes I leave that to dry without using a heat tool at all, but I was in a rush for this, so I used it. I lifted the panels before I put them on the background with foam adhesive, double-sided foam adhesive. I made a little mistake. I had a little bit of ink on my finger, and I erased it with a mono eraser tool. It's actually called a mono sand eraser. It's wonderful. It lifts right off the paper. You can't tell there was a mistake. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Please like and follow me. Have a good day.